Hello everyone. Welcome back to our channel. Today, we will learn English through an interesting psychology story. This story is about overthinking. Many people overthink every day. They worry about the past. They worry about the future. Sometimes, they even worry about things that never happen. But why does our mind do this? And more importantly, how can we stop it? Let's begin. Meet Daniel. Daniel was 29 years old. He worked as a graphic designer. He had a good job. He had kind parents. He had a few close friends. From the outside, his life looked normal. But inside his mind, there was always noise. Every morning before getting out of bed, Daniel started thinking, what if I am late for work? What if I make a mistake today? What if my boss is unhappy with me? Nothing had happened yet. The day had not even started. But his mind was already creating problems. When he walked to work, he imagined difficult conversations. When someone looked serious, he thought they were angry with him. When his phone stayed silent, he wondered if something was wrong. His body was standing in the present, but his mind was living somewhere else. The endless questions. One afternoon, Daniel sent an email to a client. After a few minutes, he started thinking, did I write it correctly? What if there is a spelling mistake? What if the client thinks I am unprofessional? He opened the email again. He read every sentence. Then he checked it again. And again. Nothing was wrong. But his brain refused to believe it. An hour later, the client replied, "Thank you, everything looks perfect." Daniel smiled for a moment. But only for a moment. Soon another worry appeared. That was how his mind worked. One problem disappeared. Another one quickly took its place. A common experience. Daniel believed he was the only person living like this. But he was wrong. Millions of people overthink every day. Some overthink before speaking. Some overthink after speaking. Some replay old conversations for hours. Others worry about tomorrow before today is even finished. Overthinking does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks very quiet. A person may be smiling outside, but inside, hundreds of thoughts are fighting for attention. Psychologists say our brain is designed to solve problems. That is a useful skill. But sometimes, the brain tries to solve problems that do not even exist. That is when overthinking begins. Why does the brain overthink? Imagine you are walking through a forest thousands of years ago. Suddenly, you hear a strange sound behind you. Your brain immediately becomes alert. What was that? Is it dangerous? It could be an animal. It could be nothing. Long ago, this kind of thinking helped people survive. It kept them alive. The brain learned one important lesson. It is safer to expect danger than to ignore it. That system still exists today. The only difference is that modern dangers are different. Instead of wild animals, we worry about messages, emails, exams, money, relationships. The brain still tries to protect us, but sometimes it protects us too much. Instead of solving real problems, it creates imaginary ones. The story inside your mind. Psychologists often say something interesting. Your brain is always telling stories. Not every story is true. Imagine your friend walks past you without saying hello. What is the first thought? Maybe they are angry. Maybe you did something wrong. Maybe they no longer like you. A few hours later, you discover the truth. Your friend simply did not see you. The problem never existed. But your brain created a complete story. This happens every day. Our thoughts are not facts. They are only possibilities. Mentally healthy people understand this difference. Overthinkers often do not. They treat every thought like the truth. Daniel's evening. After work, Daniel arrived home. He wanted to relax. He made himself a cup of coffee. He sat near the window. Outside, children were playing. Birds were singing. The weather was beautiful. But Daniel noticed none of it. His mind was busy. He remembered a meeting from the morning. One sentence kept repeating. Maybe I talked too much. Maybe I sounded stupid. Maybe everyone noticed. The meeting had ended hours ago. Everyone else had already forgotten it. But Daniel's brain refused to let it go. It replayed the same memory again and again. Each time it found another mistake. Each time it created another fear. Thinking is not the same as solving. One evening, Daniel visited his grandfather. His grandfather was a quiet man. He listened carefully before speaking. Daniel told him everything. I cannot stop thinking. My mind never rests. I keep looking for answers. His grandfather smiled gently. Then he asked one simple question. Does all this thinking solve your problems? Daniel became silent. He had never asked himself that question before. He realized something surprising. Most of his thoughts solved nothing. They only made him feel more tired. His grandfather continued. There is a difference between thinking and overthinking. Thinking helps you move forward. Overthinking keeps you standing in the same place. Daniel could not stop thinking about those words. For the first time, he understood that more thinking does not always mean better thinking. Sometimes it simply means more worry. The invisible trap. That night, Daniel searched for information about overthinking. He discovered something surprising. Psychologists describe overthinking as a mental loop. A person believes that if they think a little longer, they will finally feel certain. But certainty never comes. Instead, another question appears. Then another. And another. The brain promises peace. But it delivers more doubt. It is like sitting in a rocking chair. You are moving all the time. But you never go anywhere. Daniel finally understood what had been happening inside his own mind. He was not solving life. He was trapped inside endless circles of thought. And for the first time, he asked himself a different question. What if the answer is not more thinking? What if the answer is learning when to stop thinking? That single question became the beginning of a completely new journey. A different way of thinking. The next morning, Daniel woke up with a new idea. He did not want to fight his thoughts anymore. Instead, he wanted to understand them. On his way to work, he noticed something interesting. His mind immediately started asking questions. What if today goes badly? What if I make a mistake? What if people judge me? Usually, Daniel believed every thought. But this time, he remembered something he had read the night before. A thought is not a fact. He repeated those words quietly. A thought is not a fact. Almost immediately, he felt a little calmer. The thoughts were still there, but they no longer felt as powerful. The Worry Notebook. That evening, Daniel bought a small notebook. On the first page, he wrote one simple question. What am I worrying about? Then he made 2 columns. The first column was called Things I Can Control. The second column was called Things I Cannot Control. He started writing. My presentation next week. That was something he could control. He could prepare. He could practice. He could improve. Then he wrote, What will everyone think about me? He looked at the question for a long time. Finally, he smiled. He could not control other people's thoughts. No matter how much he worried, he could never control them. For the first time, Daniel saw the difference. Some worries needed action. Others needed acceptance. The problem with perfect answers. Many overthinkers believe they must find the perfect answer. Daniel was the same. Before making any decision, he wanted complete certainty. But life rarely gives perfect certainty. Imagine standing at a crossroads. One road goes left. The other goes right. You want to know which road is better. So you keep standing there. 5 minutes pass. Then 30 minutes. Then 1 hour. You are still standing. Sometimes, choosing a good path is better than waiting forever for the perfect one. Psychologists call this analysis paralysis. Too much thinking stops action. Action creates experience. Experience creates confidence. Thinking alone cannot do that. The fear of mistakes. Daniel also noticed another habit. He was afraid of making mistakes. Whenever he started something new, he imagined everything that could go wrong. One day, his manager gave him a new project. His first thought was not excitement. It was fear. What if I fail? Later that day, his manager said something surprising. Daniel, everyone makes mistakes. The important thing is learning from them. Those words stayed in Daniel's mind. He realized that successful people were not successful because they never failed. They became successful because they kept moving after failure. Failure was not the end. It was part of learning. Learning to stay in the present. A few days later, Daniel visited a nearby park. He left his phone in his pocket. He sat on a wooden bench. At first, his thoughts became louder. His brain wanted to think about tomorrow. It wanted to remember yesterday. But Daniel gently looked around. He noticed green trees. He heard birds singing. He felt the cool wind on his face. For the first time in many weeks, he paid attention to the present moment. Psychologists call this mindfulness. Mindfulness does not mean stopping your thoughts. It means bringing your attention back to what is happening right now. Every time Daniel noticed his mind wandering, he quietly returned his attention to his breathing. Slowly his body relaxed. His thoughts became softer. Progress, not perfection. Daniel wanted to stop overthinking immediately. But real change did not happen that way. Some days were easy. Other days were difficult. Sometimes he caught himself worrying for 20 minutes. Instead of becoming angry, he smiled. Then he gently brought his attention back again. He understood something important. Progress is not about becoming perfect. Progress is about improving little by little. Every small step matters. Every small victory builds confidence. One powerful question: One evening, Daniel learned a simple habit from a psychology book. Whenever a worrying thought appeared, he asked himself, "Is this thought helping me or hurting me?" If the thought helped him solve a real problem, he took action. If the thought only created fear, he let it pass. At first, this was difficult, but after practicing every day, it became easier. He discovered that many thoughts did not deserve his attention. Not every thought needed an answer. Some thoughts simply needed to be ignored. A quiet mind. Several weeks passed. Daniel was still the same person. He still had problems. He still had difficult days. But one thing had changed: his relationship with his own mind. Instead of fighting every thought, he observed it. Instead of believing every fear, he questioned it. Instead of chasing perfect certainty, he accepted uncertainty. Little by little, his mind became quieter. Not because life became easier, but because he stopped creating extra problems inside his head. One morning, while walking to work, Daniel noticed something beautiful. The sun was rising. People were smiling. Birds were singing. He realized these things had always been there. He had simply been too busy listening to his worries. Now he was finally listening to life. A new habit month later, Daniel noticed something surprising. He was not thinking less, he was thinking better. His mind was no longer full of endless questions. Instead, he focused on finding simple solutions. When a problem appeared, he asked himself, "Can I do something about this right now?" If the answer was yes, he took action. If the answer was no, he let it go. This one habit saved him a lot of time and energy. He finally understood that worrying and solving are not the same thing. The power of small actions. One Friday afternoon, Daniel had an important presentation. A few months earlier, he would have worried for days. He would have imagined every possible mistake. But this time he prepared carefully. He practiced his presentation 3 times. Then he stopped. He did not spend the whole night worrying. He trusted his preparation. The next morning, he walked into the meeting room with a calm mind. Was he nervous? Yes. But that was normal. Being nervous did not mean he was weak. It simply meant he cared about doing well. The presentation went better than he expected. Afterward, his manager smiled. "Excellent work, Daniel." Daniel felt proud, not because everything was perfect, but because he had learned to trust himself. Why we cannot control everything. Life is full of uncertainty. No one knows exactly what will happen tomorrow. We cannot control the weather. We cannot control other people's opinions. We cannot control every situation. But we can always control one thing: our response. Psychologists often say that peace begins when we stop fighting things we cannot change. This does not mean giving up. It means saving our energy for the things that truly matter. That is exactly what Daniel started doing. The 3 questions. Daniel created a simple daily habit. Whenever he noticed himself overthinking, he asked 3 questions. First, is this thought true? Sometimes the answer was no. It was only fear. Second, can I do something about it? If the answer was yes, he took action. If the answer was no, he stopped giving it his energy. Third, will this matter 1 year from now? Most of the time, the answer was no. These 3 questions became his daily guide. Whenever his mind became noisy, they helped him return to reality. A conversation with his friend. One evening, Daniel met his friend Michael. Michael looked worried. "I cannot stop thinking," he said. "My mind never rests." Daniel smiled. "Know exactly how you feel." Then he shared everything he had learned. He explained that the brain is trying to protect us, but sometimes it protects us too much. He explained that thoughts are not facts. He explained that action is stronger than endless thinking. Michael listened carefully. Finally, he asked, "So, how do I stop overthinking?" Daniel smiled again. "You do not stop every thought. You simply stop believing every thought." Michael became quiet. That one sentence stayed with him. What psychology teaches us. Modern psychology gives us an important lesson. The goal is not to have a silent mind. That is impossible. Every human brain produces thousands of thoughts every day. The goal is to choose which thoughts deserve your attention. Imagine sitting beside a busy road. Hundreds of cars pass by. You do not chase every car. You simply watch them pass. Thoughts work the same way. Some deserve attention. Many do not. Learning this skill changes everything. Building a peaceful mind. Daniel continued practicing every day. He read books. He spent more time walking outside. He exercised regularly. He slept earlier. He spent less time on social media. Slowly, he noticed another change. His mind became lighter. His body felt more relaxed. He laughed more often. He smiled more often. His friends noticed the difference too. One of them seemed much happier these days. Daniel answered, "I finally stopped trying to control everything." Turn now, think about your own life. How many hours have you spent worrying about things that never happened? How many nights have you stayed awake because of imaginary problems? How many happy moments have you missed because your mind was somewhere else? You do not need to change everything today. Start with one small habit. When a worrying thought appears, pause for a moment. Take one slow breath. Then ask yourself, is this helping me or is it only making me afraid? That one question can change the direction of your day. Small changes create big results over time. Final message: overthinking does not mean you are weak. It often means you care deeply. You want to make the right decision. You want to avoid mistakes. You want to protect yourself. But real peace comes when you understand one simple truth. You cannot control every situation. You cannot predict the future. You cannot remove every risk from life. But you can choose how you respond. You can choose courage instead of fear. You can choose action instead of endless thinking. You can choose progress instead of perfection. Remember this. Your thoughts are visitors. You do not have to invite every one of them to stay. The strongest minds are not the ones with the fewest thoughts. They are the ones that know which thoughts deserve attention. That is the real psychology of overthinking. And that is the beginning of a calmer, happier, and more peaceful life. Ending. Thank you for listening to this story. We hope you learned something useful today. If you enjoyed this video, please support our channel, like this video, share it with your friends. Subscribe for more English stories that improve your listening, vocabulary, and speaking skills. Keep learning, keep growing. And remember, a peaceful mind is built one thought at a time. See you in the next story. Goodbye.